We are here with Lady Williams, and such an honour to be with Lady Williams, who's been a member of our congregation for a number of years. She's probably best known now as being the mother of the Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby. But in her earlier life, she was best known as being the secretary to Winston Churchill for 6 years. She's had an absolutely fascinating life and so much to talk about. I mean, your mother was a journalist, historian, and then your uncle Rab was so many different things: Chancellor of the Exchequer, Home Secretary, Deputy Prime Minister, Foreign Secretary, Master of Trinity College, Cambridge. And then on the other side, your father and the half-brother, a nickname, I think, Pete, Chief of the Air Staff in World War II. Amazing heritage that you had.
I am blessed with an amazing heritage. I was born in India, and at age 7 or 8, my sister Sue and I was sent home to England to be educated. So that was at the beginning of the war.
And then you lived with Rab Butler.
Rab and his wonderful wife, Sydney, who gathered us up, Sue and I, age 7 and 5.
Wow.
And took us into their family. And so I was brought up, and my mother returned in 1944. But so throughout the war, I was brought up by Rab in Sydney, who had 4 children who I consider my brothers and sisters. And
then age 20, you get a job.
And Rab came home one day and said, it was 1949, I was 19. And he said, I was with Winston today from the Churchill office. They're looking for another secretary. So Rab said to me, I told them about you. Why don't you go and have a try? You can have an interview tomorrow. So I went to High Park Gate where the Churchill family lived. And I saw Churchill. He was there just going to the House of Commons. He shook my hand, walked all the way around me, shook my hand again and left. He didn't say a single word. And the head secretary, lovely Joe Sturdy, said, well, that's all right. When can you begin?
It's a great interview.
It's very proper, isn't it? So proper. Can you come in on Monday? Yes. So I started, and I was with him for 6 years. He was the most humane, most unaggressive personality. Anybody who worked for him adored him. And we were prepared to work day and night, which we did. He had a great compassion, which he combined with personal generosity and his sympathy for those in misfortune.
So you were with him in the car when the Queen, well, just then, she'd become the Queen, came back from Africa.
That's right, Pippa. George VI had died, and he was very, very sad about that. The Queen was in Kenya, but she was on her way back. When we got to London Airport, this aeroplane had just arrived from Kenya. And I always remember this wonderful moment. The doors opened, his cabinet, the cabinet, were lined up at the foot of the steps, the background. You may have seen the photograph.
Yes.
With Churchill at the top, and then the elegant Eden. And the door opened, and out came this beautiful, beautiful young woman waving to her cabinet, with Prince Philip behind her. And I had obviously disappeared. I found the private secretary, Eden had a wonderful private secretary called Evelyn Shuckburn. And Evelyn said to me, this is a historic moment, we've got to see it. And we went and hid behind the wheels of an aeroplane next door. So I saw it. It was just wonderful, wonderful.
And that all lasted until 1955, when that would have been the end of Churchill's time as 1955 was the end of Churchill's time as Prime Minister?
Yes, and I left then. Then I went through a very disturbed period in my life, because I was already, and this I'm very happy to talk about now. I'm a recovered alcoholic, but somehow the drinking was on a plateau for a long, long time. And when I was working for Winston Churchill, I didn't drink, except I used to go to parties and drink. But then the drinking escalated and my life became totally out of control. Mm. And when you think of how Justin is now, he had a wretched childhood. By then I knew, I just could think of nothing except where the next drink was coming to. And then I discovered AA. I went to Orling Park Hospital. I was put in the addiction unit after about a fortnight. 20 people, none of whom, which was so wonderful, none of them came from my privileged background at all. So that I met a new world. And it was a wonderful world. It was full of love and concern and astonishment at my spoiled life. I was there for 6 months, and each night they believed in Alcoholics Anonymous, in AA. We were put into a bus. The doors were locked because people used to run away, and we were bussed up to an AA meeting where they unfortunately, so every night I went to AA. It was just marvelous. And we had therapy in the morning, and I made so many friends there. I left, the hospital, and I then decided to become a probation officer. And why I want to be a probation officer? To help people with addiction problems. Wonderful.
So would that be 1968?
Yes, 1968.
And amazing, Jane, because you haven't touched a drop of alcohol for 50.
But the moment I left, from when I went into Orling Park until now, which is 52 years.
52 years, amazing.
And you see, every morning, and I've learned this from Nicky, from HTB and all you wonderful people, I say have my prayer time for 10 minutes every morning. And I say, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So that governs my life. In the hospital, I have this devout faith in a loving God who will take care of me. And in the hospital, there was a wonderful chaplain, and he had a mass every day at 8 o'clock in the morning. And I used to go every day to that mass.
Jane, you've seen so many different things over the years. Can you sort of summarize what you've seen and where you think the world is going?
Everything that's going on now in this pandemic and the lockdown and everything. But so much goodness has come out of it. Yes. I've noticed such kindness, such concern for your neighbour. Yes. For instance, I have neighbours downstairs. They bring me dinner 3 times a week.
Oh.
And that sort of thing. Wherever I find there's such kindness if you look for it. There are horror stories too, and dreadful. And Justin sees, you probably see Nicky and Pippa, travelling. Justin's travelled to all 39 Anglican communities.
Yes.
Such terrible poverty
Yes.
and despair
Yes.
and cruelty and tyranny. And one can only pray that God will allow people to find faith as he's allowed us.
Jane, you've served on a parole board. You've been a magistrate, a member of a board of visitors of prison, chair of the Howard League Committee, deputy lieutenant of Greater London, and now, of course, the Butler charity. All those to do with prisons. Just say a bit more about what you feel about visiting prison and so on.
There's wonderful things going on. And people, you know, in your church are doing incredible work in prison. But it's the numbers.
Yes.
What is it, 80,000?
Yes, over 80,000, I think now.
Now, of course, it's so awful they're locked up 23 hours.
Yes. Oh,
That's
it's
terrible.
horrific. Absolutely horrific.
So that the church has a tremendous role to play in visiting.
And Jane, I mean, you've seen so much in your life. You've been through some really tough times in your own life.
Well, I'm so pleased about that. You know, that is what's helped me. And that's what made me rely on God and my faith. I wouldn't have done it without.
So interesting.
What would you say to people who are going through really tough times right now? Like there must have been some very, very low points in your life between 1955, 1968.
Yeah. I would say never give up hope. And I would also say, you know, what I said this, if anyone would tell you the shortest, surest way to all happiness, I get moved. They would tell you to make it a rule to thank and praise God for everything that happens to you. For it is certain that whatever seeming calamity befalls you, if you can thank and praise God for it, you turn it into a blessing.
Oh,
that's so profound.
That is so profound. You've been a very important part of HTB.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. An honour to.
No, thank you so much, Jane, for doing it.